Yo, anyone oh Christ Jesus mu yɛsan ɛma mo akɔ aba ɛde mo ba dwumadi a yɛato no din the hour of prayerism anaasɛ the hour of prayerism nti sɛ wo subscribe yɛn YouTube channel no a anaasɛ yɛn YouTube channel no a wobɛnya videos bebree yɛayɛ wɔ hɔ no anaasɛ videos bebree yɛayɛ wɔ no wobɛnya bi wayɛ dɛn wahwɛ wɔ hɔ nti sɛ wokɔ search bar no wɔ YouTube na wobɔ the hour of prayerism anaasɛ the hour of prayerism a videos no bebree wɔ hɔ a wobɛnya bi ayɛ dɛn ahwɛ yɛ symbol no yɛ H nti wo click pɛ wo key in the hour of prayerism the hour of prayerism no a H no bɛba na wa subscribe in fact sɛ wo subscribe koraa yɛwɔ videos bebree wɔ hɔ a wobɛtumi ayɛ dɛn ɛnya bi ahwɛ wɔ hɔ nti ne nyinaa mu no me a meka sɛ sɛdeɛ meka no yɛfrɛ me onua Solomon Bedu a mewɔ Brabazzi Kofundua Church of Christ na yɛde saa dwumadi yɛde ɛbrɛ mu nti hopefully no yɛn nyinaa yɛbɛtumi yɛsua Bible no yɛate Bible no ase sɛdeɛ ɛbɛyɛ yɛmfa false hope bi ɛmfa mbra yɛn so Proverbs chapter 13 verse 12 and verse 19 say hope delayed makes the heart sick but when it is fulfilled it is tree of what life. So would we hope for that which makes the heart sick or the one which is tree of life which gives life? So I believe we will all choose the latter. So that is that. So covenant eschatology and I say fulfilled and I realize eschatology, yeah can say that hope that the old covenant, that was the promises of the Bible, okay, which was particularly made to the old covenant, Israel has all been fulfilled, and now we lived, after the fulfilled word, that fulfilled prophecy, fulfilled prophecies, so which means is that the way into the most holy, which is the what that the church is now open to all. God now dwells with us, and then right after that we don't go to any waiting place called paradise, to wait for future coming of Christ, because that coming occurred in connection with the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. We come Matthew chapter 24, verse 29 to 31. Ɛka saa asɛm no wɔ hɔ na verse 34 no say all these things will occur in this generation. So in fact some of them will not experience that till Matthew chapter 24 verse 28 to 31 fulfilled. So na yɛde ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ. The same thing Revelation chapter 1 verse 7 also talks about the parousia, and it was also to occur in the lifetime of those who stood in Jesus, John's audience. Nti saa na ne nyinaa yɛ dɛn ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ. Alright. Nti we believe that saa nneɛma no nyinaa yɛ dɛn aba mu awie. Now yɛ topic a yɛhwɛ no, yɛhwɛ biribi afa the house built without hands. Na yɛ main text no ɛwɔ 2 Corinthians chapter 5. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1 to 4 no. In our previous video no yɛkan bi ɛyɛ video kakra ɛwɔ hɔ. Nti yɛ hope sɛ at least wobɛhwɛ videos no so that you understand the subsequent videos no so saa na ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ. Nti yɛakyerɛkyerɛ mu ama yɛhu sɛ Paul's anticipation, anticipation of the the coming building from from heaven, which is not made with hands, was rather talking about the kingdom of Christ. Okay, the kingdom of Christ. That kingdom of Christ came in AD 70. In fact, it was inaugurated on the day of Pentecost. That is AD 33, but it was consummated. That was made perfect. Okay, made perfect. Made matured in AD 70. Okay, now because we know that the coming of the Christ was the time of the kingdom, and the time of the kingdom is the time of judgment, and the time of the judgment is the time of resurrection into that kingdom. Second Timothy chapter 4 verse 1, Matthew chapter 16 verse 27-28, Matthew chapter 24 verse um, 29 to 31. Nti ne nyinaa ma yɛhu sɛ saa four concurrent events nyinaa was to take place, at that time. Nti sɛ yɛpositi the consummation of the church on the day of Pentecost, yɛayɛ mistake because on that day, there was no judgment. Now, mind you, prophet ka sɛ, anaasɛ nkɔmhyɛfoɔ no ka sɛ yɛbɛsi asɔre no ɛwɔ atemmuo mu. Ɔkan Daniel chapter 2, verse 34, 35, and 44, 45. And ɔkan Isaiah chapter 9, verse 7. And may you say indeed that, and Luke chapter 21, verse 31. And may you say indeed the kingdom was going to be established in judgment. The parallel verse so Matthew chapter 60 verse 27, no 27, 28. Nti many na who say the kingdom was going to be established in judgment. Nti say you posited the establishment of the kingdom, no, on the day of Pentecost. I mistake bebree. And so now I say the kind of the time of the kingdom is the time of the judgment, and as well as the time of resurrection. Because Matthew chapter 8 verse 9 to 12, no, remember you saa asɛm yɛ yɛ dɛn yɛka no wei. Anyway, yɛhwɛ biribi ɛfa the house that is built without hands. That is built without hands. Paul says it is eternal in heaven. Now, say yɛnkan ti First Corinthians chapter 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1 to 4, no. So also, for we know that our earthly house, this tent, now and I said this tabernacle, no, it was the old covenant body of Moses, that is Judaism, and I say primarily the Jerusalem temple. So they kind of this earthly house, this tabernacle is destroyed. We have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in heaven, in heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation which is from heaven. If indeed we have been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who are in this tabernacle groan. Okay, so that is so that was the time of the great messianic birth pang. Matthew chapter 24, verse 8. You can also talk about, I believe, Isaiah chapter 26, verse 19, thereabouts. Okay, that is a messianic birth pang. You can also talk, okay, First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 1. We also have the messianic birth pang. John chapter 16, verse 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We also have the messianic word birth pang. And it was the time of the pains, of the apostle. They experienced the pains. Now the night show more than show moon crying was the Holy Spirit until Christ came to what destroyed the adversaries of the kingdom in AD 17. So that was the time of the birth of the church. Established the kind of establishment, and kasa eroho. At verse 4, and I say, for if we who are in this tabernacle grown, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. So that is that. Now we know the mortality here is reference to the old covenant body. Okay, that is the body that that will die. Okay, but the new covenant body of Christ is immortality. It's immortal. The kingdom will never be destroyed, and the kingdom abides forever. Okay, and it's the mortality will will transform into what immortality. That's the old covenant. Will die to give rise to what a new covenant, which abides forever. Okay, First Corinthians chapter 15, verse 55. So now we have these two tabernacles. Okay, now there's one tabernacle that is going to be destroyed, and there's another tabernacle that is going to come down from heaven, which is not going to be destroyed, which abides forever. So what can be Revelation chapter 21 ɛka biribi wɔ hɔ. Now in Second Corinthians chapter 5, Paul was looking for this building to come. Now all this while, Saa period in here, that building was under construction. Saa time na afi na egu so yɛ the yɛsi church no. Saa na egu so yɛ the yɛ build the kingdom no. Ɛte yɛ kasa sɛ wokafa the day of Pentecost no to be the day of the establishment of the kingdom no a wobɛyɛ mistake no, because it was still in the transition zone. Okay, it was still being built up. Okay, until the time it was built. Now, the time of the establishment of the kingdom, no, so the was the time of the coming of Christ, and it was the time of the wedding. Okay, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1 to 2. Now, Paul said he has betrothed, the kingdom. So it was what? It was not matured. Okay, that purchased possession of Second Corinthians chapter 1 verse 22. It was possession. It was that in that transition. Okay, to what? To maturity. And okay, the time I destroy the old covenant system, that mystery Babylon, that great city, you need say old covenant system, Revelation chapter 17, 18, verse 19, some Bible, no, my say, regarding the marriage supper of the Lamb, some kind of say, even Revelation chapter 19, okay, from 1 at the bar. But we are not talking about it. We are not discussing the marriage supper of the Lamb. So we shan't waste time there. Your kind of verse 7. So let us be glad and rejoice and give glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. This does not occur on the day of Pentecost. Okay, because Christ did not return on the day of Pentecost. Okay, Christ did not return on the day of the Pentecost. The return of Christ was in consonant with the return, with the saints, okay, or with the kingdom, according to Deuteronomy chapter 32, I believe 1 to 2, and then Zechariah chapter 14, I think verse 5 and verse 7. No, when the First Thessalonians chapter 4, you also see the coming of the of Christ, with the kingdom. So all these things occurred on the day of Pentecost, when Christ returned for a second time and in judgment against apostate Jerusalem. For there are a lot of people know but they are still looking at the physical Christ to come. The apocalypse of Christ is the second coming of Christ, will not come in a bodily form. It will come rather in a spirit, because John 4 number said Christ is spirit. Okay, so he was going to come unseenly, kind of. Okay, so those who destroyed Jerusalem, the Roman Empire, that had the backing of what? Divine hands, to be able, that enabled them to defeat the Zealot movement, who were the the kind of like army of Israel in those days. All right, see, so they kind of Revelation chapter 19 verse 7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give glory and honor, for the marriage supper of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. So in Second Corinthians chapter 11, it was betrothed, but now it is what it has made itself ready. Now there's the time of the kingdom, and this is the time of the marriage. The time of the marriage, Isaiah chapter 25, verse 6 to 8. And see, so, okay, that was the time. Now he said that time has well, that time has come. Okay, so now the church is wife of Christ, not the girlfriend, as people are waiting for Christ to come in future to marry the church. The marriage has already what? Okay, they said the marriage, the marriage of the Lamb has come. Okay, has come in their time. But we are someone who also say futurists for no more Christ will be in future say will come. But John said it came right down there in AD 70 when this book was written in AD 68. Revelation was written in AD 68, not in AD 95 or whatever they call it, but it was written before Jerusalem fell, because most of the prophecies were relating to destruction of Jerusalem. That great city, the Harrods and whatever, are all old covenant words. Jerusalem, the apostate Israel, apostate Jerusalem. So there's nothing new here. Okay, verse 9 so I'll say. Then he said to me, right, blessed are those who are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are the true sayings of God. So blessed are those who are now invited to the kingdom. So like I say, adeɛ no mbaeɛ a Bible no sɛ adeɛ no baeɛ. Ebinom nso sɛ adeɛ no nyɛ den ɛmbaeɛ. Nti which one should we believe? Act chapter 5 verse 29, yɛbɛtie deɛ Christ said ɛka no ɛwɔ hɔ. Nti sɛdeɛ yɛ back to your topic no of discussion no ɛwɔ 2 Corinthians chapter 5 no, say for we know that if our earthly house, this tabernacle, is destroyed. Okay, so at that time no, because that destruction no came in AD 70. This book was written in somewhere AD 55, AD 54, 55, thereabout. Okay, so it was still in future. And so Paul say when it is destroyed. So he was anticipating the destruction and the coming of the new. Nti yɛhwɛ so the kind of Revelation chapter 19 no can send you home. Now or describing the fall of that mystery Babylon, that Herod city, that great city, which is the city that kills the saints, that kills the prophet, that killed those who were sent to him. The same nipa no or this adwuma no, I know was the parables of the sower no. I think Matthew chapter 22. Okoni na ɔhen na ɔsɛte wedding ɛde maa ne ba no na ɔsoma nkɔfo sɛ monkɔ invite Israelfoɔ ma ɔmo ba no ɔmo mbra no. Ebi no ɔmo give a lot of excuses. Ebinom kɔ ɔmo kum nkɔfo na yɛ dɛn yɛsoma ɔmo ma ɔmo ba a ɔmo wɔ no. Later na ɔsɛ yɛnyɛ dɛn yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔfa afiri obi a yɛbɛhu no biara yɛnyɛ dɛn yɛmfa no mbra. Na ɔhen no se ne bo fuiɛ. Ɔka Matthew chapter 22 verse 7 and verse 8 now. Or see he came and destroyed their city. That was the AD 70. Okay, AD 70 destruction of the city of Jerusalem. Because they killed some of the servants that were sent to them. And if you know now, say Monko High Street in Obi among friend and brother, that is the Gentiles. Or say Obani Dim, Nanediangino, but as many as who believe they were given right to become his his sons. Because Israel they denigrated the value of the the kingdom and the calling through the gospel. GD yɛmbra na yɛmɛsom Nyankopɔn ɛwɔ hɔ. Ati sɛ wokan a sɛdeɛ yɛka no, Paul was anticipating the coming of the that city, that great city, that building that is made with no hands, that is coming from heaven. But Ebra destroyed that that Herod city, that great city of Revelation chapter 17 and 18 old covenant Jerusalem okay. They killed the prophet, they killed the servants of Christ, the apostles and whoever. According to Matthew chapter 23 verse 34 right down to 37, I'll say now their house is left desolate, so it was now open to attack and destruction. And see, destroying the way or AD 70. As some of kind said, now is the time, for the marriage supper of the Lamb to occur. Okay, so now then a thing ever. It is a kind Revelation chapter 21 now. Now I'll say, now I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth has passed away. Now, the first heaven and the first earth was, reference to the Jerusalem temple or the people of Jerusalem, the relationship between Old Covenant Jerusalem, and the and God above. See, God above and they on earth. So that relationship, okay, the standing of the Old Covenant temple, it was a symbolic relationship between Jerusalem and God. So I don't know if you know, see, I don't know if you they were now looking for the time of Reformation. Hebrew chapter 9 verse 6 to 10. No, I mean, who say so far as our old covenant system never valid, original one there, so new into me at the end, but after say you bubu new no, and all kind of you bubu old in my new near the official by empty as my cousin now. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth has passed away. Also, there was no sea. Now, there was no sea. That the sea is the Gentiles, according to Isaiah chapter, I think 60, 1 to 5. No, Isaiah chapter 60 or Isaiah chapter 62. 1 to 5, the sea representing Gentiles. That means the kingdom of God. There's no Gentile, there's no Jews, because old in Ebubu if you new night, Abobi or GDD, Abone Sumanaba by Yankupamba, Ewo, assuring. Then I, John, saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven. So Paul was looking for, that new city. He was looking for the holy city, the new Jerusalem, to come down from heaven, which is not made with what, with hands. Okay, Second Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1. As John said, he saw it. Paul was looking for it, but Paul was looking for it, and it will only come after the old is destroyed. Now John said the old are destroyed, and he saw the new world, the new coming. Almost a new one, then ever out of heaven, and prepared as bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is now with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them, and be their God." Okay, okay. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17 to 21 now describe semi the elho, and Isaiah chapter 66 and in Kasafa, new heaven and new earth no home. But it was nothing more than what the new heaven and the new earth. It was the church. Okay, the church of Christ. Christ now, sorry, no, can't want something right there. Omoka eho assemble han. And so whilst Paul was looking for that new tabernacle to come, John said, now that tabernacle of God, that is the throne of God, is now with men. Okay, and see, those was the time of the defeat or the destruction of the old covenant Jerusalem, which occurred in AD 70. And so what it means is that Paul's expectation was fulfilled in AD 70 when the new Jerusalem, the holy city, what came down from heaven, which is not what, which is not made with what, which is not made with hands. Yeah, the fan saying, Ebemu was AD 70 no, and very bubu Jerusalem no. And so I say, share. Yankopɔn tenabea den aba ne mpom. So that tenabea no is what that Yankopɔn tenabea no na Peter Paul den ɛhwehwɛ ɛwɔ hɔ no. Until wohwɛ a ɔse Yankopɔn for God himself will be with them and be their God, and God will wipe away every tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, no sorrow, no crying. So the beatitude, no crying, there shall be no more pains, for the former things have passed away. Now, so we are talking at that time, we are talking about the persecution. That was the end of the persecution. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29 say, immediately after the persecution of those days will Christ come. Okay, Christ will come to destroy, okay, those who subjected the church to pain, to sorrow, to death and all these things. Matthew, saa ɛhaw no nyinaa tete ne ɔmo yɛ dɛn ɔmo ɔbɛbɛyɛ efi because now they have been what, they have been destroyed, so they now have that liberty, they now have that freedom. Okay, saa wei naa so na ɛka no wɔ John chapter 16 no say ɛnkyɛ bia wobɛhu me ɛnkyɛ bia mohu me ɛnkyɛ bia mbɛsan dɛn ehu because mekɔ agya ne hɔ. Okay, so the going of Christ and the coming of Christ is the entering. Okay, nti ɔka sɛ wiase ne ehu me bi, but sɛ sɛ no mobɛsoro you sorrow, but very soon your sorrow will be what, will be wiped out because Christ has come and is now with us. Okay, and no more almost persecute our sorrows. I think you also the former things have what passed away. Okay, so now saa we could kumene saa ni awerɛhoɔ ne adeɛ here den ɛnni hɔ ebiom saa afoɔ no here den efi hɔ. Now, so what kind verse 9 to 10 of the Revelation chapter 21, and you says our New Jerusalem, no, it was the church. Now, so no, then okay, who I said down one of the seven angels, that is the last of the angels, who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues, came to me and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." Acts chapter 20, verse 28, say Christ shed his blood, to purchase, the church. Okay, that is to purchase it. He loved the church, so he gave himself for the church and all this in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 to 27. I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me. Now, this is Isaiah chapter 2. Okay, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 5. I'm considering the figurative mountain, which was the Zion, the kingdom, and the church, which we all kind of showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. The light, the also her light was like most precious stone, like a jasper, like jasper stone, and as crystal. Nti when here describe it, the kingdom that came out from heaven, which is what the New Jerusalem. Okay, so Paul's expectation of the coming of that building, which is not made with hands, was fulfilled in AD 70. All this while, between AD 33 to AD 70, the kingdom was being under construction. You see, as far as okay, First Peter chapter 2, verse 5 and verse 9 was it being built. So as at this time, between this period, towards what it na yɛ so yɛsi saa yɛsi kingdom no until say kingdom bɛwie mu de yɛsi wieɛ ɛwɔ AD 70 ma Christ said ɛbɛɛ mu Christ by inside na ɔbɛyɛ dɛn ɔbɛware asɔre no nti sɛ ɛyɛ Christ ne wife. The church is the wife of Christ, not the girlfriend looking for the husband to what looking for the husband to come. Saa na ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ nti moma yɛnhyɛ ɛhɔ no so nse na yɛtumi make proper interpretation and proper hermeneutics and exegesis ama yɛde meaning aba gospel no emu. Saa na ɛte ɛwɔ hɔ nti yɛde bɛsi ha na ɛbɛn subsequent videos no so yɛbɛhu deɛ yɛbɛka no ɛwɔ mu concerning the same topic no. Nti saa Paul deɛ na ɔka no wei no ɛno no aba mu ayɛ dɛn atwam nti yɛhwɛ new one no a ɛyɛ dɛn new one a yɛsi a yɛwɔ mu sisi nti akopɔn ka yɛn ho nhyɛ wɔn adom nti amen.